This is the closing keynote presentation. We have a couple more after this. I'll talk about that in a moment. But the next slide that I'd like to show you is that it's very important if you're an iPhone or iPad user to upgrade to iOS 14.2 today, if you possibly can. There were 3 bugs inside of iOS 14.1 and earlier versions of iOS that could be used by hackers to install malicious software onto your iPhone or iPad. Now, although this was in the wild, this was really being used to target, dissidents or people that nation states might want to target, or executives, big CEOs from companies where there could be information that was valuable. And Apple has closed these 3 security holes with iOS 14.2. And because a lot of people are still using an older iPhone 6 or an older iPad, Apple has also launched an update for iOS 12, which is called 12.4.9. So even though those older iPads and older iPhones are no longer getting updates, every now and then when there's an important update, Apple will release one. And the same is the case for Microsoft there was an update for Windows 7. At the time, they said they weren't going to do any more updates, and there was one more because there was some sort of bug that caused Windows 7 devices to crash. But it's crucially important that if you have older devices, that you really do consider upgrading them to something that is using one of the newer operating systems. I mean, even an iPhone 6S can still run iOS 14 and the brand new 14.2 release today. So it's very, very important that you update. And look, when it comes to Windows updates, Windows can sometimes have problems. The past few major updates for Windows over the past 2 or 3 years seem to have had a litany of issues. And it's always safe to type into Google, should I upgrade to iOS 14.2 or the latest Windows 10 from May 2020 or whenever it was, because people have problems sometimes, and sometimes you need to wait. But in this case, with iOS 14.2, it has lots of cool new features inside, new emojis. If you've got iOS 14.2, you can go into the Control Center, and then you go into Settings and then Control Center, and there's a bunch of different icons you can add. One of them is the magnifier, and the magnifier app that was on iPhone has been improved. I'm sure you can find videos about that can explain more. Now, in a similar vein, actually, I've got some information about Android at the end, but tomorrow morning, this is not a similar vein, but tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Sydney time, there will be another Apple event. Now, you can go to youtube.com/Apple to watch a replay of it later on, or you can go to apple.com and you can watch it. And this will be the launch of Apple's new Macs that are running on the same chip that's inside the iPhone and the iPad. This is different to the current Macs that use the same sort of Intel chip that you find in Windows devices. So these computers are going to promise, in theory, the potential of fanless design. So no fan wearing up, which you don't have in iPads, although they might have a fan inside to allow the chip to be even more powerful. But already when they did demos at the Worldwide Developer Conference in June of this year, they were doing the entire presentation on a computer that had one of these iPad chips inside, but it was a Mac. And they were even able to run a very complex game called Lara Croft that was designed to run on an Intel chip. And even though they were running it through this emulation, it was running as smooth as silk. So there's going to be some huge announcements tomorrow. And we might even discover that Apple has its Macs running up to 20 hours of battery life. None of this has been confirmed yet. But one other very important thing, it'll have the same sort of experience that you're familiar with the Mac or familiar with Windows 10. You'll have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Google Chrome, Firefox, Apple Safari, a range of different apps that you're well used to using on a Windows or Mac computer. But these new Macs, because they have the same chip as the iPad, they will be able to run all of the iPhone and iPad apps as well. And because there are well over 2 million iPhone and iPad apps, this will make one of these new Macs with the iPad chip inside, called the A14, extremely versatile. And although they haven't said a thing yet, we may even see a touchscreen Mac, which is something I would love to see, because I'm so used to using iPads that sometimes I want to touch my Mac screen, nothing happens because I'm used to all my other devices having touchscreens. And Apple has waited to be ready to launch a Mac with a touchscreen, and the time hasn't been ready yet. Whether it's tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., I don't know. If not, I predict it will probably come in the next year or two, but we'll see. So the next thing I would like to say is it's really great value to watch the keynotes from Apple, from Samsung, from Google, from Microsoft, and other tech companies. These events, I mean, how many times have we watched a movie or a TV show and complained that it was just rubbish, and you wasted all this time. And yet, you can watch something which is, if you love sci-fi, and you might not, but if you love sci-fi, why not watch something that is telling you about not some distant, far-off future where people are being teleported through space or flying to Mars in spacecraft, but something that's coming in the next couple of months or sooner. And this is where the keynotes from companies like Apple and Samsung and a lot of others are really cool. Now, there's one here that was from October 13, and that was the Apple event where they were showing off various new things. I can sort of fast forward a little bit, and you can see this event is
display borders to create a much smaller iPhone.
An hour and 10 minutes, and that's not a huge amount of time. And you get to learn cool stuff. There's various tips and tricks that I've learned about using iPhones that I still share to people to this day that were launched 3 or 4 years ago, and people don't know. And it was announced in some of these keynotes. And this is one from Samsung where they talked about their new Galaxy smartphone. Nokia had one as well. In fact, the Nokia one, they were doing it on the set of the new James Bond movie. And this 007 is using this particular 5G phone. And they're saying it's, for the ad, they were saying it's the only gadget you'll ever need. We should have already seen the movie twice over by now. And it's coming next year in April. And that will be interesting because normally when you see technology in movies, I mean, it's not used properly. I do remember seeing James Bond, with Pierce Brosnan using his phone on a pre-iPhone device. It was a Sony Ericsson. He was able to remote control the car. You might remember that one. And there was also episodes where Daniel Craig had earlier versions of Sony phones, and he was able to use tracking and other things. But I think the depiction we're going to see in this upcoming movie, No Time to Die, is going to be using, a real phone that has real world scenarios and situations. So let's see. But, a lot of the movies in recent times have been filmed as though they were in the 70s or the 60s before we had mobile phones, and they don't take into account modern technology. But that's changing because modern technology is such, that's why we're all here, Australian Technology for Seniors Conference. So look, the next slide I want to show you is that it's great to learn a lot of the cool shortcuts that are out there. And people have filmed YouTube videos that go through this in detail. So I simply typed in, you can see here, it says iOS 14 tips and tricks. And you can see that there's one with 1.4 million views, iOS 14 tips and tricks for beginners. The second one, iOS 14, the best hidden features and tips. And you just go to YouTube, you type that in, and you can learn some really great shortcuts. I mean, normally I'm showing you these shortcuts on the stage and on the big screens, and you can sort of see my finger as I'm doing it, but we haven't sadly got time to do that today. But these videos are all out there, and I really would recommend that you have a look. But it's not just for iOS. And I'll come back to some other tips and tricks soon. But last year I showed this video, and this video shows you how you can control your Mac, iPad, and iPhone completely by voice. So some of you who watched last year will remember this, but if you didn't see it, I'm going to play it now. And is it going to play for me? Now, that man was a quadriplegic, and yet he could control his computer and phone better than some people can do it with their hands and with a mouse or a trackpad. And that's been available for over a year. So in iOS 14, it's even better. And again, there are videos online that can teach you how to do that. And it's so simple and easy to do. And you can be cooking something in the kitchen, your hands are messy with something, and you just say, hey Siri, open voice command. And in fact, my phone wants to do it now. And it does it. And
I don't see an app called voice command. You could try searching the App Store.
It's voice control, of course. But anyway, that was Siri responding to me. So there are Android tips and tricks as well. Just type Android tips and tricks 2020, and you'll find lots of little shortcuts and cool things. And you can be teaching this to your kids, your grandkids, and they'll wonder how the hell you learn about all these cool things. Well, it's on YouTube videos. And I'm sure if you ask your children and grandchildren to show you some stuff, they can as well. So the next one I wanted to tell you is also Windows 10. There's lots of great tips and tricks out there. Windows 10 tips and tricks you should be using for 2020. Windows tips and tricks that will save you time. These are really great. And some of these videos, 9 minutes and 45 seconds, 17 minutes and 48. I mean, if you're sick of seeing all the news about COVID and everything else, have a look at some of these, share them with your friends, and you can really learn some cool stuff that will make a positive, actionable difference to your life. Now, also, there's a new version of macOS probably coming tomorrow called macOS 11. We've had macOS 10 for well over a decade. But you can type macOS 10 tips and tricks, and here, these are the various macOS Big Sur features you need to know. This will be a fabulous upgrade to Macs that makes the interface look a bit more like the iPad, but still keeps all the power that Macs are well known for. And also, if you've got an iPad, you can use a keyboard and a mouse. I've got the iPad Air 2020 here, and this new iPad comes, the iPad itself is, well, I can see it there. It's difficult to see because of the background. But this iPad, it's got the pencil, which unfortunately costs extra, but it does. And it's also got this keyboard. Now, this keyboard has a trackpad, and so I can use this iPad like I can use a Mac or a Windows PC, and you can do the gestures to swipe up, swipe down, use 2 fingers. It's very cool to use an iPad the way that you're used to using a computer. And if you haven't tried it, you can get a cheap Bluetooth mouse from Amazon or eBay or any computer store. The trackpad's usually a bit more expensive. And, there are plenty of keyboards out there. And you should try using your iPad, not just as a touch device, but now also with keyboards and mice. And, there are alternative pens or pencils. There are alternative keyboards and trackpads. You don't have to buy Apple's ones. They are quite expensive, but they are top quality. And so definitely, again, there are some great videos out there that will show you, how to use a mouse with your iPhone or iPad, how to use the new cursor and iPad mouse support. If you haven't tried it, it's a revelation. It's really cool. Now, we also have I got this information on Saturday, and it's about this new Make a Robot kit. Now, I've got the website there, pakr.xyz/Mark, pakr.xyz/Mark. You'll see all the information there. You'll see it's $387.45, which is cheaper than a secondhand iPhone. But let me play this little video, and you can see what it's like. It goes for...
We're going to introduce a kit that makes artificial intelligence education fun and accessible. Mark, Make a Robot Kit. To learn more about Mark, you can visit our coursework platform in your browser. There are plenty of guides here to help you create fun projects. You could add a grabber attachment and feed your pet a treat. Mark's pan-tilt camera has a large viewing range, and we pre-trained a model for common domestic animals, so Mark can find and recognize your pet. Additionally, we have added a harmless slingshot attachment. You can find a target to aim at. Oh, she's not impressed that he aimed a slingshot near the cat. Our Mark robot is designed to be educational. Mark's abundant range of supporting courses enable educators to impart understanding of complex technologies which are very relevant today. Through graphical programming, students can quickly develop enhanced understanding of the principles behind autonomous driving and automated logistics. Of course, Mark is not limited to graphical programming. In the MicroPython IDE, Mark can use trained models made by you or the community to recognize any object you choose. We also invite experienced makers to join the community to create interesting projects which can eventually find their way into the classroom. As further programming skills are acquired, students can reproduce these projects or even improve them. When you've developed superior skills, you can compete with your friends. Look, she won! So, this is our Mark, adding fun into education.
So that looks pretty cool, and that's something that's brand new. And I mean, that's a project that's a lot more exciting and brings out the creativity. And I'm sure there'll be a few of you watching that'll think, oh, I want to try that myself. It's not just for kids, but for the kid in all of us. And that teaches some really advanced concepts, autonomous driving and other things. So there's lots of great technology out there. And I just implore you to give it a go and have a look and check it all out and watch those YouTube videos. Empower yourself with information. Don't wait to ask. I mean, get a question, find the answer on YouTube, and then share it at the next main meeting. Don't ask at the next main meeting you go to, whether virtually or in person. There's so much learning that you can do that I really hope that you educate yourself as much as possible. Now, if you've got an older Android phone, it's crucially important that by September next year, you update it, because there's a security certificate, SSL, it's called Secure Sockets Layer. And it's that little padlock that you see when you go on banking sites or other sites, and it's encrypting the information that you send. Now, there was a security SSL certificate that is going to expire in September 2021. And there were two companies working with each other, and one has decided not to renew this license, probably because it cost them a lot of money. And so Android phones that are older than 7.1 will no longer be compatible. And it's very important that you upgrade your phone, because if you don't, 30% of the world's websites will cease working on that phone. Now, you can use Mozilla Firefox browser instead of Google Chrome or some other browser to get around that for a while. And you do have, 11 months or thereabouts, 10 months to do it. But given, we have phones from $249 that are really powerful and run, Nokia phones especially come with the guarantee of getting 2 Android OS updates and 3 years of security updates. So at least if you buy one of these, it's going to run Android. This is running Android 10, and it will run 11 and 12. And it's the same for the 3.4. So, you can buy Android phones that do get updates, but if you're still running one that's got version 6, 5, or 4, which are very old versions of Android now, it really is crucially important to update. And also, I saw online that there is an Android wrist PC, but it's running Android 7.1.1. So, it's just about, out of date almost, but it's $143 US at GearBest. They say it's a bit heavy. And it's incredible what they're coming up with. It's sort of like strapping a phone to your wrist. And by the way, these things are called pop sockets. This little gadget on the back here, they sell them at JB Hi-Fi and, and any phone store for between $5 and $15. Really, really cool to get one and hold a big, because, these phones have big screens. Makes it so much easier to hold the phone like that. And I really recommend you get one. So they've got crazy technologies out there. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. This officially closes the 2020 ASCA conference. We have another draw.
Yeah, we've got another draw. We've also got a couple of questions just before we dive into that draw for you.
Sure. Well, I just before, I just also wanted to note we do have the 2020 photo competition, the AGM, and the tribute to Nan Bosler. And I just wanted to wish everybody a safe holiday season and a fantastic 2021. And let's go with the questions.
Excellent. So, one's a statement. Ruth Kenrick Smith said that there's a Kickstarter app that does the cardboard robot as well, a cheaper version. So have a look at that. Ruth shared the link to that, and we'll share that on our site. Compals let us know that when you did your Siri command, Alex, you took command of their Siri on the iPad.
Well, normally Siri is supposed to listen for the voice and only answer particular voices. So you can go in there and retrain it. Maybe I just have a very compatible voice, but look, that's a problem that people have had. People on radio have had fun, on some of those FM stations, activating people's Siris and Alexas and Googles. So that's one of the issues of the modern world. Hopefully they get that voice recognition even clearer. But yeah, are there any other questions?
And Jenny had a question. Why don't laptops have capability of connecting directly to the internet, like phones and tablets?
Sure. Look, for many years, a number of them have come with a built-in SIM card slot, and but it's something that's required a different chipset, and a lot of companies, they just didn't want to spend the extra money to do it, and so they had Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi was in offices and in homes, and I thought that was good enough. So there are laptops and tablets that run Windows that do have this in there. I suspect we're going to see tomorrow that the new Macs running the iPad and iPhone chip inside will come with either an eSIM where the SIM is built in and can be activated through an app and you can't remove the SIM, but it may also come with a SIM slot as well, so that you can get 4G and 5G and 3G. And so, if you want a Windows device that has that, you've got to look for it. It's an extra cost, and the Windows world is normally trying to squeeze costs, but I think Apple's Macs from tomorrow onwards will come with connectivity.
I will just share a poll while we're going through that.
Okay, so we're looking for presenter feedback, whether we were all great, whether some were interesting, others not so. whether you prefer presenters not to use presentations, but to just talk and engage with us, whether the content was appropriate or whether you loved the variety of presenters. Answering this helps us to bring you a even better conference next year. And, you know, we greatly value your feedback, and we'd love it if you could please help us with that. Normally we'd have a form on each seat, and Nan would be directing you to fill it out before you left the room. As I remember at many conferences in the years gone by. But of course, in 2020, we have to do everything online, and that includes getting some wonderful presenter feedback. Well, I just want to say again, thank you very much to Google, eSafety Commissioner Acronis, Nokia, which is HMD Global, the home of Nokia phones, Tech2 being there, who we must thank greatly as well for helping behind the scenes to make sure all the presenters could get online, for helping to manage the Zoom platform, and just for being there. Thank you very much. And also Yoga to Go, who did a great presentation at lunchtime and has great content for seniors. Well, 60% of you said it was great. Thank you very much. Now we have 21% who said some of it was interesting, some not so. We had 2% who said they prefer presenters not to use presentations, but just to talk and engage with us. So that's a big vote, I guess, there for presentations. 38% thought the content was appropriate. And so, you know, let us know what sort of content you would like for 2021. Are there specific areas that would be more appropriate? Let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback. And 67% of you loved the variety of presenters. And remember, normally this would be a 2-day conference with streams of information. We had to consolidate it all down into 1 year because of the year that we've had.